So, how do we do this? How would you like to do this?
We're all gonna just throw questions at you.
Oh,
so
wow.
I guess, you're an old pro at superheroes and animation. Talk about finding the voices for the different heroes in this movie, like Hawkgirl, Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, the writers' voices, I assume you're talking about. How do we find it in our, internally in our heads?
Well, yeah, because obviously a line from Jon Stewart's going to be different than a line from Oliver Queen. So.
Really?
I hope so.
Well, I think that's what we do for a living. Is you work from personality, you work from motivation, and every line that you write comes from that personality and motivation and circumstance, of course. So that's sort of writer 101. I think what's fun is getting the right characters in the same room at the same time, in the moment at the same time, and the friction that's caused or the attraction that's caused, that's what makes it worthwhile. So if you've got good, strong characters, which these are, you end up with a really great scene, a really great subplot, and a really great movie, hopefully. And I think that this particular stretch of Warner Brothers films is very dramatic. It's dramatically drawn, it's dramatically designed and animated, and I love it personally when I can just go for the drama of a situation, and I have characters that can support the drama of a situation. That's when it really works for me. So this film was just right up my alley as a writer.
Speaking of which, what was it like to finally put a spotlight on a character like Jon Stewart that certainly has not gotten the spotlight that he's deserved up to this point?
Well, that's the great gift, personally to me, actually, because he is DC's first real black superhero. For a whole generation of kids who watch Justice League on TV, he is their Green Lantern. So I think this is long overdue. For me as a black writer, I'm the first black writer for TV animation. I started my career 40 years ago. I was the first black showrunner when I did a series for Hasbro called Moondreamers, and also a series for Jim Henson, Fraggle Rock. So for me as a black writer, I am thrilled and delighted to be handling this significant black character. This is his 50th anniversary, I believe. It is my 40th anniversary exactly this year in the business. And this is just a tremendous gift to me to be able to bring this character out and introduce him to a whole new generation.
Did you guys use the Justice League or Justice League Unlimited any for reference to the Green Lantern, since he's been brought to life in that series before?
My only reference in terms of prior animation was an episode of Static Shock that I wrote, in which he made an appearance. It might have been the last episode of Static Shock that I wrote, and I wrote this character. The villain in that episode was Sinestro. So I was pretty well versed as to who this character is and what he's all about. And that was a pretty dramatic episode, as I recall. So you're well versed in the lore. That's great. Yeah. Well, you guys are doing a horrible job of firing questions. I thought this was going to be like an interrogation.
What made you guys decide to bring in Hawkgirl into the series?
That was something that was thrashed out. When you start these projects, you're sort of sitting with Jim Krieg, and you sit with Butch, and they have a preconceived idea of what's going on. Very early on, they had decided that this wasn't going to be the traditional Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman kind of situation, and I remember we had one meeting where Jim just said, let's not go there. Who else can we use? Hawkgirl, though, was integral to the story, and I'm very happy that she's in it. She's a strong female presence. She provides a tremendous amount of conflict, and that's where we get a lot of drama from, is from the conflict. And so that was decided. That was integral to the story. I think Jim had that in mind right from the very beginning.
And we also have Vixen. Her role is not as large as Hawkgirl, but she does have a purpose with the totem, and the she compares it to John's ring, the power ring.
Right.
So and she does it in just like a limited. She does have history with John Stewart. So I'm curious how the idea to bring Vixen into this project came about.
That was actually, we were sitting trying to figure out. We knew that John had to go to the Watchtower and we were trying to figure out, okay, who's in the Watchtower? And I think, again, that came from Jim. You know, he just said, let's use blah, 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 because he had not seen these characters before. We were trying to make it different. We were trying to make it interesting and unique. And that's where she got chosen. Again, it was, you know, should we use Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman? No, let's not do that. Well, then who else? And Jim had some very strong ideas. Jim Krieg had some very strong ideas about who else we should use.
What was the writing process like as a collaboration? Were you working as a writer's room, or did you just get a draft that you did and pass it on?
Ernie and I have known each other for a good number of years. He worked for me, actually, when I was the story editor and head writer and producer of Spider-Man the Animated Series. So we've known each other for over 25 years. So, and in fact, I've known Jim for over 25 years. So it was kind of a nice, friendly, you know, I want you to do this. Jim came to me and said, I want you to do this, and I want you to do it with Ernie. And I thought, great, there's going to be a party. And in terms of practically how we did it, we beat out the story together, the three of us, and then Ernie took the first half. Once we had a pretty good idea of what the story was and how many pages would be devoted to what, Ernie took the first half, I took the second half. And again, it was all of our story. And then I did a full rewrite after that of the whole thing based on everyone's early notes. And then I don't know if you know, I have no idea who touched it after that, because the last I saw of it was the full rewrite that I did. I would imagine Jim did a rewrite. I'm not sure if Ernie revisited it after me. I don't think he did, because I think he was busy doing some other stuff. But that's sort of how it worked. It was pretty straightforward. And we all having worked together, and especially having had experience with Spider-Man, because Jim also worked on Spider-Man, we all know how we think, and we all write pretty much the same way. So it was a really, you know, it went by so quickly. It just went by so quickly. My joke is I'm still waiting for the bad notes. You know, I'm waiting for them after this screening tonight. I'm waiting for them to hand me, and now here are the bad notes. You know, because it really went just smoothly, and it was a lot of fun.
Has there been talk of a next one?
Not for me right at the moment. I know that Ernie's working on some other stuff, and I have a whole other bunch of things going on in my own life. But anything could happen. Anything could happen. But I'll tell you, if this is the only one or the last one that I do, this is it, man. It's going to be hard to top this one.
Good way to go out. How did you all go about choosing the villain for your story? What's the process like for coming up with something like that?
Well, have you seen it yet?
I have not.
You have not.
These guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a kind of a twist. And that was baked in from the start. We knew where we were going to end, and I love writing that way. I don't like figuring out an ending, you know, while you're in the middle of it. So there's a kind of a twist, and then Sinestro is just such a cool, easy villain to have in a Green Lantern movie. So that was a pretty easy decision. Yeah.
Were there specific comic book storylines that you were drawing from?
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that ties in a little bit to the ending. Yeah, I mean, it borrows, you know, it's interesting because some of these movies are translations of comic books that people are very familiar with, and they're pretty direct translations. This one is not. This one borrows a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and I was really kind of surprised when we started this, and I realized that was going to be the case, because I think sometimes these films get a little restricted by the comic book pacing and plotting. Mm-hmm. Two different worlds. You know, I've written comic books. I wrote 19 issues of Cyborg for DC. It's a different kind of writing, and I think that when you try to translate one into the other, there are just these little speed bumps you run into, glitches. This doesn't have any glitches because we just sort of went, we're going to tell this movie, we're going to tell this story, we're not trying to translate anything, and we can just make a really good movie. And that's my favorite thing about this film, is that it feels like a really good movie.
This is actually, I don't think, from what I've heard, Butch was kind of led into creating this shared universe, continuity of films. So, it's, even if you haven't seen, I think it's like the third or fourth one in the series. So, I assume when you were writing it, you had no idea that it was going to be a shared universe, but it seems, even if you've never seen those, it's pretty easy to get into. Curious your thoughts on writing something for a shared universe?
Yeah, that was pretty much, that's Jim's thing, is to keep all the pieces of the puzzle figured out. We were encouraged to watch the Adam Strange short that kind of precedes this. So I did see that before we wrote, and that was integral to us understanding where Adam Strange is at this moment in time in the universe. So, yeah, that was the part of it that we were aware of. But the rest of it was really very standalone. And whatever hook up with any other movie or any other thing, that's really Jim Krieg's department.
In 2 years, it's going to be the 30th anniversary of the greatest superhero animated series of all time.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to commemorate that?
What could you be talking about? Yeah, there'll be something. We'll do something. I'm being told that we're done.